On today's show, the Celtics go up 3-0 against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, how Boston got it done in Game 3, why the narrative around the Celtics' easy path to the finals is a little bit overblown, and should Boston still be trying to bring Kristaps Porzingis back for a potential finals appearance, or is it a little bit too late in the postseason? It's all coming up on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Celtics and Locked On NBA, John Karalis. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Celtics. And John, the Celtics going up 3-0 against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. 114-111, the final tally from Game 3 here. Now, no Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers in this game. So walk me through what you were seeing from the Celtics perspective of why this game was so close in the final moments, even though the Pacers were missing their best player.
Yeah, they're missing their best player, but they still have Pascal Siakam, who's pretty damn good, and Miles Turner, who's pretty damn good, and TJ McConnell, who's playing out of his mind. And I think there's like a real disrespect for Celtics opponents in their run here when people focus solely on what the Celtics are doing wrong. There's not enough talk about what the Pacers and Celtics opponents have been doing right. And the Pacers' style of play is not Halliburton-centric. He enhances their style of play. So they're a very tough team to defend. They are random. They're chaotic. And they play at a speed that just makes all of that chaos and randomness very difficult. You make one mistake and they can really beat you. And the Celtics weren't playing their best defense in the world. They're playing probably a mediocre style of defense. And the Pacers just took full advantage of it. And I mean, full advantage, shooting like 70, 80% from two. It was a ridiculous number. But look, credit to them for building that lead, and credit the Celtics for getting through it, finding themselves, and turning it around.
You know, I can't help but wonder, as I'm watching this team, John, if we have yet to see the Celtics play their best version of like playoff basketball, in part because they're still missing Kristaps Porzingis, but then also because you look at their path to where they are so far right now, with it looking like we're headed for a Celtics Mavericks finals, you know, with both teams going up 3-0 in their respective conference final series. But you look at the path that the Celtics have taken to get there, right? So many injuries stacking up against the teams they faced in the first round, second round, now this round with the Pacers and losing Tyrese Halliburton, a team not playing already, you know, short staff, not having Benedict Mathurin. So, but you have to play who's in front of you, right? So I don't think it necessarily, the conversation around the Celtics team around like, you know, oh, they've got like the easiest cakewalk to the finals. No, you still have to beat the team in front of you. I think that conversation's a little off.
Yeah. And look, people are just stacking up the prior seasons, and which is understandable, right? Like, I get it. There's some kind of carryover. It's a little reminiscent, but just because some of the stuff is reminiscent doesn't take into account that this is a different team. Tatum and Brown have grown. Joe Mazzulla has really grown as a head coach. They're all bought in, and it's different players around them. Drew Holiday instead of Marcus Smart. Kristaps Porzingis when he's healthy instead of Robert Williams. Just completely different dynamics on the team. Derek White has taken huge leaps forward since he was traded to Boston. And you know, in all of this stuff, we haven't really talked about Boston missing Porzingis. All of the focus has been on who the other teams have been missing. You don't talk about the Celtics starting center, a 7'4" guy who protects the rim as part of their elite rim protection and who can spread the floor and draw rim defenders away so Tatum and Brown and other guys can drive and get to the rim more comfortably. So there is a real dynamic here that's missing for Boston. But because some of the stuff they do is familiar, that aspect is overlooked.
I'm glad you bring up Porzingis here because I feel like the Celtics are headed for kind of this precarious situation, right? Where at this point, this deep in the playoffs with the finals, potentially right around the corner for both of for the Celtics and Mavericks, unless something goes absolutely catastrophic haywire in either of these two conference final series. Should the Celtics still be trying to bring Kristaps Porzingis back and reintegrate him if he is ready for the finals? Because, right, there's that whole worry about ramp up and chemistry and is he going to come back, and is it going to be tough to get him back in the mix of things at this point, this stage in the season?
Yeah, it's tough, no doubt. He's missed a month, and you don't just miss a month of basketball with no repercussions. He's out for game 4. So unless the Pacers extend this series, his first action back from the injury will be in the NBA finals, which less than ideal. But you also have probably a week and a half to get him as acclimated as possible, get him ramped up via practice, which you can't duplicate game situations in practice. You can't duplicate that speed and that intensity, but you're going to have to do as best you can. And I think that he's pretty close. He's walking around. I don't know how much work he's done on the court because the Celtics are very, very, very secretive, but he's walking around fine. He looks normal. He's in good spirits. Everything is, if I didn't know any better, it looks like just normal Porzingis. So I would expect with so much time between now and the finals that he's probably going to return. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's back for game 1. But the ramp up process is going to be, a very important one. And the Celtics are going to have to find a way to get somebody in, some competition. Maybe they hire a team. Maybe they get some former pros in and get them to scrimmage against the Celtics just to get them some competition, something to get Porzingis a little bit of game action so he's not completely rusty when he comes back.
Not to completely jump the gun here, but obviously with the way that we think these series are headed, it looks like we've got, a potential finals matchup of the Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks on the other side of things, likely coming out of the West. What do you make of that matchup when you look ahead and start thinking about how this Celtics team matches up with Dallas, how some of their guys match up with the Celtics, and will that be, at this point, the toughest opponent the Celtics have faced in the postseason?
Oh, no doubt. But it depends on how lively is feeling him. He went down
that was
with
tough
that very
to watch, man.
And it's they're calling it a neck sprain, but I don't know, man. That also feels like there's concussion elements to it, which is very serious. And so I hope that's not the case.
He stayed down for so long too. Like those are always really scary.
Yeah. That's just so tough. It's completely like unintentional, but just brutal. So, but that does have a big impact because that's a pick and roll threat, a lob threat, a good playmaking threat on the short roll. So it adds an element to the defense that the Celtics will have to account for. If he's not available, now the blitzing of Luka comes into play. But here's the thing that I think weirdly the Mavericks are absolutely the best competition the Celtics are going to face. And the Mavericks absolutely could win this series. But in a weird way, they're a little more predictable, and that makes them a little easier to defend. And if Porzingis is back, you can kind of game plan a little bit for what the Pacers do. It's going to be Luka and his superstar greatness and Kyrie and his superstar greatness. And can they will the Mavericks to wins? Because I think the Celtics defense will be better than the Mavericks defense. And it's just a matter of which team stars can score, and can Boston's kind of depth at the top of their roster create the opportunities that I was talking about. If Porzingis can stretch the floor, especially if Lively's not playing. Can he stretch the floor and get some rim running opportunities for the Celtics wings to get some easy points and collapse the defense and then really get that 3-point shooting going? So I don't mind the matchup against the Dallas Mavericks, honestly, even though the talent is tougher.
Yeah, and especially because you booked your flight ahead of time knowing that they would be headed to Dallas, right?
I'm prepared, man. I'm sorry I didn't book any flights or hotels in Minneapolis, but yeah, I'm already planning. I'm already planning dinners in Dallas.
There we go. Will this Celtics team be able to close out the Pacers in Game 4? What will the NBA Finals ultimately look like for Boston if they make it there? Things could still happen. Never happened before coming back from 0-3, but never say never. You'll have us covered for all of that and so much more over at Locked On Celtics. John, thanks for stopping by Locked On NBA with me.